My name is Brett Noyes, and I am the Managing Director for Unbank.Ventures. Our program could be considered a pre-accelerator program. Our companies have went on to go on to YC, QC FinTech, Seed, Plug and Play FinTech, and we're hoping that in the upcoming years that our companies will join 500 startups, CFSI, Boost, and Yodlee InvestNet. So I invited all those people out to tell us a little bit about their program. So at our program, we're really focused on helping our entrepreneurs, getting them packaged up so that they might be able to get into one of the best programs in the world, or just raise seed funding on their own. So with that said, let's invite the panel up here and let's kick off this last session. I'm gonna probably moderate from here, guys. I know, just to throw you off a little bit. Cameraman, does that work or no? Yeah, you make that happen? Okay, excellent. Yeah, let's just grab a seat. Let's keep it casual, guys. Come on now. There's 6 of us left. Okay. So yeah, let's just quickly go through, starting with Maddie. Have everybody introduce themselves, and we'll kick off this talk.
Hi, my name is Maddie Callander. I am Director of Operations and Associate at Boast.vc. We are a startup accelerator, pre-seed stage companies focused on cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, blockchain technology, and virtual reality and augmented reality.
My name is Kaitlin Asrow. I'm probably a bit different than other people on this panel because I'm actually a researcher and consultant for the Center for Financial Services Innovation, which is a nonprofit focused on improving consumers' financial health in the United States. So this is more than the un- and underbanked. This is really about changing kind of financial services for the better. We're a nonprofit, if I didn't mention that. And we work through a number of different ways, including a financial health network and these consulting services that I mentioned. But in addition, we run what we call the Financial Solutions Lab. So it's a 5-year, $30 million partnership that we have with JP Morgan Chase, where we're seeding early stage fintech innovators specifically to improve financial health in the United States.
I'm Jeff Cain. I run the Yodlee incubator. If you don't know Yodlee, we're a $150 million a year company. We aggregate consumer and small business financial information from 15,000 banks around the world. And 3 years ago, we launched the incubator. I search for startups that want to do cool things with that financial data, and I accelerate their time to market.
And my name's Chris Neumann. I'm a venture partner at 500 Startups, one of the more well-known accelerators. We're also the most active early-stage investor by number of companies. So we've got about 2,000 investments worldwide in almost 60 different countries. We're also the most active early-stage fintech investor. And I run our data track, which focuses on companies that leverage big data, machine learning, and artificial intelligence.
Excellent. Okay, let's start by talking about how many applications, especially 500, how many applications are you receiving per, and I know you guys all kind of use different terminology. You guys are a cohort, batch, tribe?
Sure, whichever one. I think we usually go with batch.
Batch, okay. Per batch, how many applications?
Per batch, we actually just kicked off this week reviewing applications for batch 23. Normally our batches are anywhere between 30 and 55 companies. We get on average between 4,000 to 5,000 applications per batch.
4,000 to 5,000 per batch. And do you guys go through, and I guess the follow-up question for all of you guys is, do you look at every one of these applications?
Yes, we do.
For real?
Yep. Every single application that comes in, we chop them up based on area of specialization. So anything that's tagged as, say, data machine learning comes to me. And basically, I'm going to be spending, and my team's going to be spending the next month going through every single application to determine who gets phone screens, interviews, and the like.
So you would say that when people are putting out applications to your guys' programs, that they should maybe curtail them to the particular program?
Not in our case. We're a little bit simpler in that. So we've got a standardized application, but on it you can sort of check off like what is the area that you would consider it in. So for example, if it's an artificial intelligence company, it'll come to me. If it's a health company, it'll come to Rebecca Woodcock, and so on and so forth. So that's more for us to just figure out and slice and dice and actually get through 4,500 some odd applications.
So we'll have to go dive into how do you get into the top of that stack. But Jeff, tell us about how many you guys are receiving on, and tell us a bit more about your program. Right, you guys are different than a 500.
Yeah,
Talk to us more about that.
We are cohorts instead of batches, just because I like the way that sounds. We do one cohort a year, 8 companies per cohort. We get 100-ish applications every year. I read them all. Other people read them all, but I certainly read them all. some more carefully than others, honestly. Our program is a little bit different. It's corporate. We are really focused on people doing interesting things with Yodlee data, so that sort of steers me in particular directions and away from other directions, and we don't take equity.
So talk to me more about like what the value of your program, like why would someone pick, you know, Yodlee versus something like maybe a fintech-focused accelerator program that was taking equity and probably writing a check?
Well, there's two answers to that. One is we provide access to the Yodlee data for 12 months free, which is worth anywhere from $50,000 to $250,000, depending on your volume. We do all the usual mentorship, support, Startup 101. You get that, honestly, from every program. We do it well, but other folks do it well too. Yodlee has 600 bank customers around the world, and we open up that ecosystem to our companies, so that's pretty valuable. We know people everywhere. Even the banks that aren't customers, we've pitched them over the last 15 years, so we do know people pretty much everywhere. And then the second part of the answer is because we don't take equity, you don't have to make that decision. We encourage people to do our program and other programs. We've had folks graduate and go right into 500, come out of 500 and go in. We've had folks in plug and play. We have yet to have anyone do it simultaneously, but we're open to that.
That was going to be my follow-up question, so excellent. So Kaitlin, can you talk a little bit, let's see, I don't know how this exactly applies to you, but kind of generally speaking about kind of how the FinLab amount of applications per year. I think you guys run your program once a year.
Yeah, so we typically have an application cycle from about February to April. We're in our 4th cycle out of a 5-year term, though we hope to continue the lab after that. We usually receive between 300 and 400 applications for 8 to 9 spots each year. We do read every application. It's not in the thousands, luckily, but we take a different approach in just that we bring those applications back into our nonprofit. We come from a lot of diverse backgrounds, so I think that helps us kind of look at them in different lights. Some of us are researchers, some of us are analysts, some of us come from banking or other sectors.
So what type of fintech or entrepreneur should be looking at your program in particular?
Yeah, so as I'm sure you've guessed by now, we're really looking at social impact as our primary goal. We want the return on our investment to be a social return and financial health, not necessarily a monetary return. So if you are a fintech that really feels like your product is serving a deep customer need, then we want you to apply. And I would say that for us, we think our program is a bit unique in our focus on partnerships, on consumer advocates, on regulators, and how that kind of fits into this space. And so we do want you to really think hard if you're applying about why our program fits for you.
So you were saying some metrics around kind of the social impact or the consumer impact. So how do you guys quantify that? And how would a startup that's applying, how should they quantify that on an application?
Yeah, so we, from our umbrella organization, we've developed a set of principles. We call them our compass principles, which guide for us what quality means in financial services. These are items like embracing inclusion, building trust with your customers. So I would say a good starting point, obviously, is your gut instinct on whether you think your product is helping or not. But then after that, go onto our website, look at our principles, and test your product against them and ask yourself those questions.
Excellent. Maddie, how many applications are per tribe?
Per tribe, yeah, we're tribes. We have 2 tribes a year. We accept 15 to 20 companies in each tribe, and we receive, on average, 400 to 500 applications per tribe.
Excellent. And from around the world?
Yeah, so we have invested in companies from over 33 countries. Every tribe is usually a very diverse group of people, and because we're very vertical-centric, all of our companies are in the crypto space, if we're talking fintech. We're pulling companies from all over the world to have a conversation and work with each other, build that network, and tap into our network of blockchain, Bitcoin, Ethereum companies that we've already invested in our portfolio. So
what would you say is the core value proposition of Boost is?
Yeah, so because of that vertical specific, because we're a vertical specific accelerator, our mentors, our network, our investors, all of our talks, our business 101, everything revolves specifically around these verticals and how the startup information changes for a cryptocurrency company. What does the legal side of things look like for a crypto company? We're deep in the crypto Bitcoin ecosystem, and so everything we do, we're tailoring to a company that is on its way to building a larger startup in that space. So.
Okay, so with this varying amounts of applications, whether 100 or 4,000, how does someone get to the top of the stack? Like what's going to be something that a person can put in the application that's really going to catch your attention?
I can kick it off. So because we're specifically looking at cryptocurrency, what I'm looking for is something that couldn't be done before cryptocurrency existed. So a problem that exists in the world that couldn't be solved previously in our existing banking system and our existing financial systems, and where crypto has to be in existence is necessary for the product to exist now.
So two things. One, just also so everyone's aware, you don't have to be a nonprofit to be in our lab. We do accept for-profits, and over half of our cohorts to date have been for-profit companies. But we also require that you have a product in market. That's important to us. It can be alpha or beta. You know, you can have just one customer, but we want to make sure we can actually kind of evaluate your product against our own mission. But other than that, you know, the real key for us is to know your customer deeply, identify that problem, and get inside their head and experience their life. And so that's a big part for us.
You know, for us, we're very focused on use case for Yodlee data. So, you know, if you want to get to the top, make sure you make clear what you plan to do with our data. Ideally, position that in a way that is unusual. You know, we've been doing this a long time. We've seen everything. If you have another PFM application, you better make sure that you've done something to make it different than every other PFM application. Usually I'm on these panels with Sheil, and he and I are elbowing each other to see who can say no PFMs the first. But we really do
Didn't coach me on that point.
We really do focus on that. And then, you know, the usual stuff. You need to have a well-written plan. You have to think through what you're trying to do. We are a little unusual. We're stage agnostic. We'll go as early as 2 entrepreneurs with an idea. We'll go as late as someone who's raised a seed round or has a product in market. That means hopefully your application will make clear what do you want to do over the 6 months of our program, because it's going to be very different for those two companies on either end of the barbell. So we look for some clarity of goals.
And in our case, 500 Startups is a growth accelerator, so we're a little bit later than a lot of other programs. What we really focus on is the sales and marketing, top of funnel, all the way down to revenue growth. So in general, we're looking for companies whose product is already in the market. Now that could be they've got a handful of early customers. It could be they've just got some unpaid pilots with longer sales cycles. But we're looking for companies that are past the initial product development and customer feedback loop. So what we're trying to avoid is we've got a pretty intense, 3.5 month program. We're trying to avoid situations where, they take it out to a customer, the customer gets feedback, and then it's, 2 months to incorporate that feedback, and then our program is over. So we're not necessarily looking for any particular amount of revenue. It could be, $1,000. In some cases, we have companies with $100,000 in revenue. But it's really just, okay, you've got a couple iterations of feedback from real customers, people who aren't your parents, and you're ready to actually put the gas on and learn how to go from the first couple of customers within your network to a broader customer base and revenue generation.
So in my own personal experience, I've seen that the 500 startups, the Techstars and the YCs are all moving further up the value chain, and that's kind of creating the opportunity for myself and some of these other accelerators. So I guess thank you. So we'll talk more about how these programs are becoming more like schools, and some of them likened to Ivy League schools. But both Chris and Jeff kind of hit on a couple points of making the most of the program. So what would be your advice for a company gets in or wants to come to your program? Like, what stage should they be, or how should they be prepared to come to 500 and down the line?
So in our case, one of the first presentations that we give to all of the new companies who come in is what we refer to as our buffet discussion, which is 500 Startups offers a lot of content. We bring in a ton of mentors and speakers and various folks who can help the founders and their teams on everything from top of funnel growth to how do you deliver professional services, how do you sell into large organizations and banks and so on and so forth. But we believe in treating the founders like adults. So, one of the first things we tell them is there's going to be content almost every day. There's going to be mentors coming in, office hours and things like that. It's entirely up to you, what you attend and what you don't. But there is a direct correlation between the companies and founders that spend a lot of time absorbing a lot of the content and getting engaged with us, with the mentors, and with each other, and those who sort of, dial it in and treat it like a commuter school. So we really do spend a lot of time encouraging them to get involved. And by midway through one of our batches, where we kind of look and say who's doing well and who's, falling behind a little, the ones who are falling behind each and every batch are the ones who really, aren't getting engaged and aren't taking advantage of the program.
Excellent. Jeff?
I have the exact same speech. Instead of the buffet, I usually have a picture of that guy from Klinkle burning $100 bills. And I say, if you're not taking advantage of the resources we offer, you're this guy. You're burning money, and, well, don't be that guy. And it's the same thing. I think of it as you got to be scrappy as an entrepreneur. Being an entrepreneur is really, really hard. Doing a startup is hard, and you need to take advantage of every resource, every free opportunity that's out there. I've got 70 world-class mentors, and if you're not hitting me on the side and saying, hey, I want to talk to that guy, I want to talk to her, she's amazing, that's a problem. In each company, I'll sort of say, you really need to talk to these two. I'll do 2 or 3 where I make it happen. But the rest, you gotta take advantage of everything. You gotta really embrace it. Yodlee has amazing people. We have literally shizzle bytes of data that we keep up with 5 nines reliability. If you're not talking to our DevOps team and our database team, what the hell are you doing?
I think that's great advice. I've definitely seen that in the companies I've worked with, where some people kind of want to be spoon-fed, and I think that these are opportunities for people that are self-driven and can figure things out and are willing to ask. So that's really good advice. Kaitlin?
Yeah, I would position ourselves we have growth and data. I would say that to take advantage of the lab, it's really about partnerships, in addition to being with like-minded social impact people and advisors. We have a financial health network of a lot of existing financial services companies. So if a partnership is something that you feel like is the next step you need to really grow your business, that's something that we offer. And as I mentioned before, we have deep connections in the regulatory community. We're kind of always talking to different regulators and consumer advocates in DC. And so we make a really strong point to introduce our lab to them and to have conversations about what your company means in relation to that landscape.
Yeah, at Boost, we provide both housing and office space. So we end up cultivating a very close group, tribe. Everyone gets to know each other really well. The conversations, international teams working together in a space also bring out a lot of really interesting ideas, topics. We do encourage them to take advantage of all of the program and the options that we offer. It's not required to go to everything, but we try to encourage everyone to take advantage. We see the same trends as you guys, where if they're participating in things and they're engaged in things, they're going to be more successful in the long term. We do try to establish some early habits of communicating with your investors, accountability, holding themselves and their teams accountable. We are at the earliest stage. We are investing in teams anywhere from 2 founders and an idea to actually having their first product to having actual traction in the product itself. So we're also investing in such early markets that we have this saying to be the cockroach, and it sounds gross when I say it on a panel outside of our office.
It's funny, I was literally going to ask you.
Yeah.
What I've seen that on your guys' marketing. What does that mean?
And in our office, we have golden cockroaches everywhere, hidden throughout the office, because we really think that to be in the crypto market right now and to be in virtual reality or augmented reality right now, you've got to survive. The markets don't exist yet. There aren't headsets and VR users yet. The crypto space is very early. There's a lot of money going into it, but the users aren't there yet. So you need to be able to hustle. You need to thrive. You need to continue to figure out your business model to get to the market and be there when the market meets you. So that's also one of our mottos.
So I know 500 strong. What does that mean?
Well, 500 Strong originally, our thesis involved, investing in 500 startups, and now we're close to 500 a year. So that's a reference to our network, our alumni base, and companies that come through our program. There is a massive Slack channel with pretty much anybody who's ever gone through 500, and they're able to reach out and connect and leverage that.
all about the network. So I don't know if the other two programs, CFSI or Yodlee, if you guys have a tagline or a mantra. If you do, I'd like to give you the opportunity to tell us all about
I
it.
feel kind of inadequate. I don't have a clever mantra, but I can.
Jeff, we'll do coffee. We'll both come
I
up
think we
with
can be the cockroach.
Unbank doesn't have one
No,
either.
Yeah, that's the winner. But my next cohort starts December 4th, so I've got
Yeah.
basically 20 days to come up with something clever.
Yeah, I have nothing.
Okay. I didn't know if I just didn't know of them, so I wanted to give you the opportunity. Okay, well, we've got another awkward question for you. So accelerators have been likened to universities. So if your program was a university, which one would it be? Think about it for a moment. So they say, the YC is the Harvard of, I don't know what they say Techstars is, but 500 is on the record forever.
I'm trying to figure out if there's some like university equivalent. Maybe, I don't know if it's the UC system. Like, can you start at one university and then graduate to another?
There you go.
One of the things that we do is we've got 22 funds around the world.
Okay.
And so one of the ways, in addition to our applicant pool, that we get companies is our regional funds invest in companies, and they sort of leverage the
Maybe
the
you're
ones
like
that
the
are more
Holt
exciting.
University of
The which?
Holt. Are you familiar with the international
go. Yeah.
business? So all around the world.
Exactly, something like that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So okay. Jeff, got anything?
I don't know. We're maybe. What's that crazy little school where you work on a ranch and nobody knows about it, but it's amazing and it's also free? So that's us. We're not as well known as some others, but we're pretty amazing and it's free. We don't take equity. So Deep Springs. We're Deep Springs.
Okay. The deep springs of accelerators. Awesome.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna have to look up what deep springs is, but
I'm going to call ourselves more of a program within maybe if CFSI is a business school. Ours is kind of a socially minded program in a business school. We really try to respect profitability and for-profit companies in the market as creating sustainable change. And so we want to make sure that social impact is really closely tied to a sustainable and profitable business model. Non-answer.
I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but I think we're probably like I would compare us to like an unknown engineering school in Canada, where you're like not sure. You're like, yeah, I think I've heard of that. But some of the strongest technologists come out of Canada, and they're kind of an underdog a little bit, and always get teased, and we're kind of always in that space. So yeah.
I went to an unknown engineering school in Canada, so I like that one.
Okay. Great.
so you would
Not sure if it's a compliment.
In another
but-
lifetime, you would have been a great entrepreneur for Boost.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All my
Okay.
Canadian companies are going to love that comment.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Let's hit on, like the previous panel said, you can't go through a panel without bringing up the word blockchain, let's say ICO. I think this really is something that's potentially going to affect early stage investment. That's my own thesis. I'd just like to get your guys' opinions on this. Like, is this a threat or a complement to early stage investment, to accelerators? Is this going to replace the need for you guys? Are we done? Should I pack it up tomorrow?
I can kick that off. We talk about this a lot. How does an accelerator work with blockchain technology and ICOs? And I think a lot of people's experience at an early stage, more money, more problems, like to a certain extent. You're still going to need to learn to run your startup. You're still going to need to organize your business. You're still going to need to build out a team. There are a lot of fundamental pieces of startup world that are going to apply to the ICO model as well. And so I think we're going to see a lot of hurdles and a lot of new challenges that are going to need guidance and support in ICOs.
Excellent. And you heard it first. More money, more problems from Maddie Callander.
Yeah.
Use VC. Don't be the cockroach, or be the cockroach. Sorry.
Be the
Sorry,
cockroach.
sorry.
Yeah.
So we really haven't seen ICOs in our space, so I'll probably pass it, but I don't think they're a threat. We're pretty specific in what we're focused on.
I mean, you don't apply to an accelerator because you want a lot of money. You apply because you want to learn, and I think that is true. Yes, if you can raise $50 million in non-dilutive financing through an ICO, then you can make a lot of mistakes that way, but you probably shouldn't. You probably don't want to, again, be that guy burning the $100 bills. So I potentially complimentary, certainly not competitive. I don't see any of our applicants doing an ICO anytime soon.
I just came out of a meeting with one of our companies that is about to do an ICO. So we spent a lot of time thinking about this, and there's no question that ICOs are going to have a massive impact on the fundraising landscape. I think the impact on accelerators specifically probably won't be huge. Where we've sort of internally come to a quasi-consensus is, it's seeming like once we get over the current bubble, and things sort of normalize, I would expect that it's going to be more options in terms of fundraising for particularly early companies. So, I'm raising for a product, project. It's not launched yet. I don't really have a huge network to get friends and family money, but maybe I'm well known because I was an open source contributor, whatever the case may be. So at that really early stage, at the sort of seed ish area where you're looking for not just money but advice, whether that's through an accelerator, through an early stage investor, building a network, I think it's going to have less of an impact in the long run. And then when you get past the B, C to sort of more established companies that are looking at alternatives to IPOs, and they've got some well-defined ability to, hey, let's turn this value offering into a token or whatever the case may be, I think you'll see a lot of impact there as well.
Excellent.
So, I think once this bubble sort of settles down, you're going to see the companies doing ICOs are going to be companies where tokens are an important part of their business. That's not very many companies. For most fintech companies, tokens aren't an important part of their business. It's going to be really challenging for them to do an ICO. And so I think you're going to see that too. You're just going to see, these tokeny businesses, who you know well, are more likely to be ICO candidates, and the next PFM, not that we'd let them in anyway, is not. And I'll give full credit to that idea to Alex Rampell, who I just heard say pretty much the exact same thing 2 days ago.
Looked like there was something on the tip of your tongue.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think we're going to, after we get over the bubble and the hype that we're in right now, I think we're going to be evaluating teams that are ready and willing and capable of building things. And I think there's a limited things that are really require the tokens for utility purposes. And it's going to be really exciting technology to be working in. And it's going to be super fun. But the teams are going to have to be good, and they're going to have to be qualified, and they're going to have to be able to actually build it and produce something. So it'll be fun.
Couldn't agree with you guys more. Okay, well, that's our time for this panel, but I want to give you one option. If there's anything else you'd like a founder should know before applying for your program, or one thing they should know about your program, let's just go through her quickly and kind of do one last thing. Chris, you want to start us off?
All right, well, batch 23 applications are open, and the only thing we ask is when it says, put a link here to your pitch deck, make sure that it's accessible to the people reviewing your application. That's one of the easiest ways to not have your application go forward, is if we have to spend an hour trying to get access to your application.
Good advice.
Our next cohort starts in December, so it'll be another 6 months until applications open. But I think I speak for all of us when I say make your application direct, simple, make the links work. Don't put a lot of fluff in it. We do this for a living. Just tell us what you do.
I'm going to jump on the PFM bandwagon and just say you don't really need to solve every problem for every consumer right now. Find something niche, find some problem that some consumer has, and fix that problem for them, not everyone.
We have applications open right now. They're due December 8th, so we are accepting for our Tribe 11 happening in February 2018. So if anyone's interested, I'm happy to talk to you about it.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much.